Welcome into our Backyard Brothers podcast. End of May. Someone's birthday is pretty soon, I think. Uh, but so I'm going to start off with just a fun little story, real quick. So we're expanding our zoo here in Denver area. Our little our small creature count is now up to a one psycho dog, four chickens, one rooster, uh, and we just got a cat this last week. All that with a toddler. So that's what's going on right now. And it's funny because Ivy likes to, she's a year and a half old and she likes to go around and talk to the animals, either tell them what they are or tell them what they say. That's what she likes to do. So she goes to the dog and she'll say dog, or she'll say woof, woof, one of the two. And she goes to the chickens and she'll say in her way. And then she goes to the cat and she says titty. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam will go up to our cat and just wrap his arms around the neck and just squeeze and just be like,
Gosh.
that's how he says, I love you. If you can't breathe, it means I love you.
Yeah. Our cat is terrified of Ivy right now. She's very loud and she's very unpredictable. So
That's funny.
yeah. Okay, so we're gonna jump in with Dustin leading us through a memory today. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so with us approaching the NBA Finals, I wanted to talk about perhaps the greatest NBA Finals game and moment of all time. And this is, of course, the 2016 NBA Finals, Game 7. Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors. So a little bit of context is after Game 4, the Warriors are up three games to 1. This is the series is essentially decided at this point. The Cavs have to win 3 games in a row, 2 of them at the Oracle Center at that time in Oakland, and as history would say, they would do that. They won 3 games in a row, and the defining moment is that Game 7 with a little over a minute left. Cavaliers turn the ball over, and Warriors start to push it up fast up the court. And LeBron James, who was in a really bad defensive position, he was on the other side of the court from where the ball was. He was near the bench, and he took off at full speed. And then sports science looked at that, said that he was running faster than most NFL running backs can run at that point to get down the court. And Steph Curry has it. He passes it to Andre Iguodala for a layup. J.R. Smith comes under Iguodala, forcing him to adjust his shot, and LeBron James, running at full speed, jumps from nearly 10 feet away and is able to sail in and just pin the ball against the backboard in order to block it, and it's rebounded by the Cavaliers. They push it back up the court, and a couple possessions later, it gets over to Kyrie Irving, who hits a 3-pointer with less than a minute left in order to take a lead that would be insurmountable, and the Cavaliers win the NBA Finals on a 3-game comeback, winning 3 games in a row in order to secure Cleveland's 2016 title, and kind of the storybook moment of LeBron James being able to bring a title to Cleveland, which was always his goal since he was drafted in 2003. And so I guess my first reaction is when I remember watching that play live, and me and my dad were watching it, and we both, whenever that happened, we both thought, did he get that? That's a goaltend. Did he get it? And we're like, I guess he got it. That was incredible. And they showed the replay, a billion times, and it's replayed all the time. And yeah, he got it. Incredible block, one of the greatest defensive plays, not only of all time, but of course in NBA Finals history. And then Kyrie Irving's dagger three to essentially win the game at that point. This is a play that I can rewatch over and over. It shows hustle, determination, never giving up, and of course one of the greatest talents in all of athletics, doing what he does best, which is a chase down block. Reaction from either of you?
Yeah, I remember watching that live as well. We were in between apartments at that time. I think we were living with my in-laws in their basement, watching the NBA finals at this point. And and more context that I think I need to add to this is this Warriors team was a team of destiny. They were 73-9, I believe, that season, the best regular season record ever. And so the one comparison you can draw is to that 2007 New England Patriots team, the best regular season team, but they fell short of the championship. And the Warriors did the same thing, the best regular season team to ever play, and they fell short in the championship game by one game. And so it's really important. And you mentioned the other one too, Dustin, that this was the first title and so far only title Cleveland has ever won. And a lot of great context there. And I remember watching that live as well and thinking the same thing, that there's no way he got that in time. It had to hit the backboard first. And I was cheering for the Warriors in that series because, well, mainly I could say I was cheering against the Cavaliers, but that's because I didn't really want either team to win. But I found myself cheering for the Warriors, and I couldn't believe that he got that block, and then Kyrie hitting that dagger three is, uh, you know, it was quite the possession, quite the game seven, to be able to watch that live and to be able to see such heart come out of players that were really trying to bring a title to a team that had never had one before. And so that was quite a special moment, even for someone who has notoriously cheered against LeBron. And it goes back to to what we talked about last week with Kobe. I don't cheer against LeBron because he's a bad guy. He's a good guy, I think, a good person. It's just that he's so good that I cheer against him. And so it's a form of respect, I think, in this case. So, yeah.
I didn't watch the game live. I was actually if I get the date right, I was actually still coming home from a mission for my church. And so I was not watching that live. But I obviously have seen the highlights several times. You said something interesting, Dustin, about how LeBron was clocked running probably a little bit faster than most NFL running backs. Granted, also running that speed in 50 feet or 60 feet or something like that. So I think that says so much about his acceleration. Even his is insane. I first thing I think of as a comparison is DK Metcalf's chase down tackle from 2 or 3 seasons ago. But DK Metcalf had 80 yards to get up to speed, and LeBron James had 50 feet or 60 feet to clock a speed, similar to that. So that right there is just really, really impressive. It's really amazing. And watching him get that block just in time. When I was watching the highlights the first time, my first thought was also, isn't that goaltending? But you look at the review really closely, and he got it. It's just amazing. You can't say anything bad about it. It's just pure talent, and you got to respect the game when it's there. And then Kyrie Irving finishing it off, and so it's just really fun to watch those highlights, and really just fun just to think about the talent and the grit and the determination that he had as well, to get that done. So hats off, respect to him, and you got to respect it when it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. In conclusion here, Oh, sorry. To
I
conclude
was going to say
quickly
one
for the
thing that
memory, it was.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, Dustin. You're I'm breaking through.
Sorry. To conclude the memory, and we can keep talking about this. It was it was incredible, and we want to give fair credit to J.R. Smith, who made a lot of the defensive play happen. That he did what he was supposed to do in that delaying Iguodala's shot, making him change it, giving that half second more of a shot before the release, in order for James to make that play. And then think about the context of NBA history. This you could say this game completely broke the NBA, because the Warriors lost, and Kevin Durant then went and joined the Warriors the next season,
Yeah.
and created perhaps the greatest super team of 2 MVPs on the same team, a 4 all-star team, together, basically all to go and try to beat LeBron James, which they did do the next 2 seasons. I guess he was there in the finals the next 2 seasons, as they created the greatest super team of all time in order strictly just to defeat LeBron James.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot we could talk about super teams and that creation, but the only thing I was going to say was just talking about that distance to travel and in such a short time. I was going to say it also helps when you have 6'8" legs versus like running backs who are 5'9" or whatever. So, um, yeah. Okay. We can continue to talk about that, but let's see. We're going to talk about the Western Conference Finals. This was a series that we each said, this is going to be a longer series, where we finally have the respect for the Lakers that maybe we didn't have in the first 2 rounds, right? Like, Nuggets are going to struggle to get past the Lakers. Um, False. This was a 4-game sweep where the Nuggets dominated in every category, in every game. And it, I think you have to give LeBron some credit for what he said after game 4. He was talking to reporters up there, and he said that throughout my career here in LA, this being Denver is the best team I think we've ever faced. And you remember LA won the title back in 2020, and so that's pretty high praise coming from LeBron to say that no matter what we did, we weren't getting past Denver. They played so good, and they beat us in every phase, is what he said. And LeBron had a amazing series himself, but especially that game 4 first half was incredible. He went like, I think he missed 2 shots the entire half and had like 31 points by halftime. And it looked like the Lakers were going to run away with that. And then it just wasn't enough. The Nuggets said, oh, okay, we'll start playing again. And so I want to hear some reaction from the Nuggets, and I guess from the series in general, from you two, on what this 4-game sweep in a Western Conference Finals means. And we'll talk about the Nuggets going forward in the NBA Finals as well in a little bit. But
Yeah. So I think first reaction is the Lakers never played bad. They'd always played good in every game. All 4 games, they were a great team, but the Nuggets were just so far superior in every category. And I don't, and the Nuggets weren't having games where they were, shooting 60% from the field. It's just that they had the right matchups. They had the right strategy. They are able to space the floor, and that is so undervalued. What Jokic can do in order to space the floor, in order to get cuts and open threes for his teammates, and then he himself get a triple double several times throughout the series. Really, just incredible basketball to watch. It's one of those things. If you're a coach and you're trying to teach your team about ball movement and spacing, watch the Nuggets, and during the Lakers series, they played textbook basketball.
Really, all I'm going to add to that is I find it interesting that we're just talking about LeBron James, in the finals from 2016. Um, and and um, and I guess what sticks out to me first is just, we talked about how good LeBron James is, all the determination, the talent, everything going to that, how they were able to come back, win four games in a row. And then here they just get swept. And I think that's, doesn't say anything about, LeBron's, tanking. No, he's not. The Nuggets were just really good. Really well coached and really, really good team. Just impressive. And I mean, my first thought is I don't see how they can lose any other game.
Sorry, I'm finishing a cherry. um, yeah, I think that leads great into we don't know exactly who the Nuggets are going to play in the NBA Finals. We know that history is certainly on the Miami Heat side. Let's talk about that for a second before we jump into the Nuggets, though. So the Heat win the first three games in the Eastern Conference Finals, and remember, in the history of the NBA, and we're going back how many years? 80. I don't know how many years since.
Yeah, 78 years.
Yeah. No team has ever come back from a 0-3 deficit in the playoffs in NBA history ever. And it's only happened a few times in other sports. I think it's happened a couple times in NHL, a couple times in MLB, in baseball. I think the premier one that the Celtics are using right now is obviously when the Red Sox, their hometown team, Red Sox are down 0-3 to the Yankees in the AL championship, and they come back to win four straight and beat the Yankees and then eventually win the World Series as well. And so the Celtics are using that as an example that, hey, we can do this too. We can be the Boston team that does that. And so far the Celtics have won two pretty easy games to force Game 6 in Miami. And I was saying it offline in text, and I think Richard Jefferson and NBA analyst said it as well, that this team could be the one that creates this history. They can win four straight. Any reaction to that? Is anyone feeling that same kind of history possibility here, that the Celtics can win the next two games too?
I do feel like there's a little bit of that buzz. The Celtics have been playing absolute great basketball. They've really come alive the last two games, and I feel like the Heat have been incredible this series. But you could also kind of look at a law of averages. They've had really good basketball for three series in a row, and the average might be coming down for their play. They have not ascended to the same level that they have in their previous two series against the Bucks and the Knicks, and even the first three games against the Celtics. That they're scoring less than 100 points, and so the Heat have been giving the Celtics the opportunity, and the Celtics have been playing fantastic basketball, and so I feel like that buzz is in the air, and tonight's game can really show that if they're going to force a game 7, and it's exciting. That buzz exists for sure for me.
Same, honestly. I was just going to echo that. I feel like it's in the air. I feel like a lot of people are thinking and saying that Celtics have this in the bag. They're going to come back and force Game 7 and win it all. I think that'd be kind of cool, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Heat will probably be able to win tonight. I hope that they will, but it's in the air. The buzz is in the air, and it's possible the way they have been playing. It's possible.
It's a couple of quick things. The Heat are doing this without Tyler Hero. Remember, their second leading scorer from the season. He broke his hand in the first round. So I mean, what they've done without their second leading scorer for the season has been pretty incredible as well. But it's tonight is the game, right? It's in Miami. Tonight is the big one where I think if the Celtics can win tonight, there's a lot of problems for the Heat heading back to Boston for a Game 7. So if the Heat, I mean, the Heat would have liked to win 2 games ago, obviously, to sweep the series, but uh, if the Heat need to close this out in 6. They can't let Boston force a game 7 back home at the TD Garden. They can't do it.
No, and like I said, they'll be getting Tyler Hero back soon. If they're able to win, he'll be back for the finals. Um, but Victor Oladipo is also out, right? He won't be back for any season, right? And he's a fantastic. He's been an all-star in the past, and fantastic. And so what the Heat have done with 2 of their normal starters on the bench this entire playoff series is absolutely incredible. And we've talked about Jimmy Butler before, and just kind of in awe of what he's been able to do. And I'm hoping for a Heat victory, kind of purely for the historical aspect of the 8 seed going all the way through to the finals. And I'm sure we'll shift over to whichever team faces the Nuggets, what's going to happen there.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And Cody, you mentioned it at the very end of your discussion of the Nuggets. No matter which team comes out of the East, can they really beat the Nuggets in 4 games? Or can they beat the Nuggets 4 times, I guess, is the question. This Nuggets team has just gotten better every series so far, and you could have that discussion of rest versus rust. They're going to have almost 2 weeks off between when they finished and the NBA finals, which is a lot of time to sit there and not play basketball. And so there could be that rest versus rust there, but at the same time, beating the Nuggets 4 times that seems like almost a Herculean task to be able to do that 4 times. So will the Nuggets be favored no matter who comes out of the Eastern Conference? And do you think that I mean, the Nuggets are in the finals for the first time in their history. The Nuggets have never been to an NBA finals, and now they have a chance to win it. And do you think that they're the favorites no matter who comes out of the East?
So it would be interesting because both teams, the Celtics and the Heat, both have recent relevant finals experience. The Celtics last year lost to the Warriors, and the Heat 3 years ago lost to the Lakers. And so these players on each of these teams have finals experience and know that pressure. And that cannot be undervalued. But that doesn't mean that Nuggets go in any less favorable. I think Denver, not only the hottest team of the playoffs, but I think they're going to be highly favored whoever they play. And honestly, I would expect the Nuggets to win in 6 or less, no matter who they play.
Yeah, I was going to say if the Nuggets were able to sweep a good Lakers team with LeBron James on it, I don't think it matters Celtics coming in or Heat coming in. The Nuggets have a lot of momentum. They have a lot of rest. They're not just going to be sitting around not doing anything. They're still out playing every day. They're still out in the gym. They're still shooting hoops. So, they're not having the game type experience, but they're still playing every day. They're still getting their workouts in. So I don't know if there's any rest really to be worried about with the Nuggets. So they're going to be coming in with the momentum, with the motivation, and to me, it doesn't matter if it's Celtics or Heat. It's going to be Nuggets in 5.
And going back to the championship experience, the Nuggets do have one player. I think they only have one, honestly, that has championship. Kentavious Caldwell Pope won a title with the Lakers back in 2020, but like you said, a lot of players from the Heat, maybe not a lot. They've changed a lot since that title appearance, but certainly with the Celtics from last year. But I think the Nuggets only have the one player, KCP, who has been in the finals before and won. But
yeah, the Heat have Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love, right? Both finals experience, both starters during their title runs, and so they have a lot of experience. Both teams have a lot of experience, and then Jason Tatum is a top 5 player in the league, and he's just one of the most perfectly built basketball players in this generation.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to return to some of our NBA draft discussion from last week. We ended pretty quickly to get out of our get out on time. So we talked really quickly about Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs winning the lottery, and if Wembanyama himself has a lot of pressure to live up to being a number one pick for a team that has had two Hall of Fame number one picks in their history. We talked about that. What is and we can just have some discussion the rest of them because this is the last topic we have listed on our schedule. But the question I wanted to ask is how much pressure comes with being a number one pick? And we're not just talking about NBA. We can talk about NFL here as well. And any examples of people who have taken that number one pick and turned it into great success, showing that yes, I was the number one pick for a reason. And but then also some examples of those guys that were significantly overrated. I don't know if that's the right word, or under evaluated, maybe evaluated incorrectly, or maybe the pressure itself was too much. So let's talk about that. What kind of pressure comes with being in the number one pick, and some good examples and some bad examples.
I'll go ahead and pitch in first. First off, there's a lot of pressure. No matter what, there's a ton of pressure on being the first overall pick, even second overall pick. No matter what sport you're in, because the idea is that you're coming out as whichever team is choosing you as the new face of that franchise, a savior, if you will, of the franchise. And I mean, on kids that are 17 years old, if it's in basketball, or up to 19, 20, that's that's a lot to put on just a kid who's still a teenager or just recently out of their teen years. It's a lot of pressure. Not to mention that it could be bad for their ego. These teens coming out and then getting paid millions and millions of years just to hopefully be a savior or a face of that franchise. So I think it's not fair. I think a lot of time, and I think most of it usually has to go back to the evaluation of players. We've seen people who are the first overall pick, they've been terrible, and then there's the fifth, sixth, seventh pick who are great. And so yeah, just as an example, and for me, the first example I can think of is, and I go football right away, and so I think of Joe Burrow. He was taken first overall a couple years ago. He's been great for the Bengals, taking them to two Super Bowls now. Just doing great. Has proven why he is the first overall pick. And then the worst one I can think of right away is Jamarcus Russell. And Jamarcus Russell was the picture perfect kind of type built quarterback, at least back in that those days, kind of similar to Ben Roethlisberger in build. And he was terrible. He it was like he never played football in his life. And so it really is, no matter what sport you're in, it really is kind of like just like a lottery. You don't know what you're going to get, kind of thing. And so it's really important to have good evaluations of every player, no matter where they're going to be picked, and having just good knowledge that pressure might crack on these players. That may be what happened to Jamarcus Russell. I don't know.
Some comments on that, and I'll first react to Jamarcus Russell and Joe Burrow. I think that's a great comparison. With Joe Burrow, I think that knee injury was the best thing to happen to Joe Burrow's career. Was that he came in and then had the opportunity to take 6 months off to study the mind, to get the mind ready to play football, and then when he came back that next year was absolutely incredible. And so that knee injury was the best thing that happened to Joe Burrow's career. Jamarcus Russell, that's a whole different story because his coaches tested him. They gave him empty tapes to go and watch. And then they asked him what he watched. And he said, oh, yeah, I watched all these blitz packages and all that. And they realized this man doesn't care. He is not here to play football. And for that reason alone, he was complete bust, because he didn't care. He was built for it, but didn't have the mind for it. For the pressure in every sport, when you're the first overall pick, it's you're expected to day one be the face of the franchise. Day one, come in and be the savior. And that's an enormous amount of pressure, regardless of the sport. That's what it is you're expected to be a starter. And later on, later draft picks, later rounds, usually the opportunity of say, hey, we'll sit you on the bench, you'll come off the bench, or you'll have some G League experience, or you're not going to be the number one option. And that development is really good. And that's why we see a lot of these later round picks or even undrafted players being excellent. You could look at the Miami Heat, for example. They have a handful of undrafted players who are making huge impacts on their team. Some good examples: LeBron James, number one overall pick. Look at him now, right? In NBA can say Kwame Brown was number one overall pick and didn't last in the league for very long and just never was able to make an impact on whatever team he played for.
Yeah. Looking at the history of the NBA draft for first overall picks, I think by and large, the top picks in the NBA do pretty good for the most part. I mean, going through the list for a while, I'm just gonna popcorn around here. Magic Johnson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Webber, Allen Iverson, Tim Duncan, LeBron, as you mentioned, Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns. Cade Cunningham was great in his rookie year. He was hurt most of this year, but Paolo Banchero won Rookie of the Year. He looks pretty good this year. And so for the most part, I think the NBA first overall picks do pretty good. Then you have the ones that you mentioned, Kwame Brown. I think the big one that sticks out to me is Greg Oden. Don't. Anthony Bennett. No one remembers who he is. He was a first overall pick of the Cavaliers back in 2013, I think. He did nothing. And I think he was in the NBA for 2 years and then out. And then there's a couple guys that are role players now. Markelle Fultz was a first overall pick, and he's still in the NBA. He's still a starter, but he's not first overall pick kind of quality. And so you have that kind of dichotomy, I guess, a little bit, where I think I would say 70 to 80% of the first overall picks end up being all-stars. And a lesser percentage of that end up being first overall pick, Hall of Fame type of guys, but they do exist. And I think NBA does a pretty good job of it. NFL might be a little bit more, I mean, there's a lot of different positions and there's a lot of different things like that. And so it's not quite as, it's a little bit more of a coin flip maybe in the NFL. And so I was going to look at those first overall picks and see what we can talk about that in our last 5 minutes here. So, and so Cody and Dustin, you both mentioned Joe Burrow. I think we can mention John Elway and Peyton Manning. Sorry, I'm finally getting there. Michael Vick. As far as like other positions go, you had Mario Williams, defensive end, who was very good. Jake Long, an offensive tackle, who was very good. Jadeveon Clowney. A lot of the times you have quarterbacks, right? But Bo Jackson, way back when. But then you have these other guys that don't show up as much, that don't have the kind of careers. Tim Couch, David Carr. We mentioned Jamarcus Russell. We're still kind of, I don't know if the jury's still out or if it's closed on Baker Mayfield yet, but he was a first overall pick. So, He'll be a starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, who will most likely finish fourth in the NFC South. But so, any discussion there about some of the names I mentioned, about some of the evaluations? I think NFL is very heavy quarterbacks, first overall pick, but there are others, and there's some that pan out to be really, really good, like Manning and Elway and Matthew Stafford. I don't know where he fits in that conversation, but he was a first overall pick as well. So
Yeah,
interesting with Baker Mayfield. ESPN a couple weeks ago released a top 75 greatest college quarterbacks of all time, and Baker Mayfield was number one. Greatest college quarterback of all time is what they said. And you can look at his NFL career and say, okay, if you're number one there, where are you here? Doesn't match.
yeah.
Yeah, just to add to what you were talking about, Scott. I think reason why most of them are quarterbacks is obviously because that's the most important position in football. That's the biggest capacity to have the biggest impact on a team. And so, but then yeah, there's like people like Mario Williams, who there's these other positions that do have big impacts, and then there's players who aren't a first overall pick but play like they should have been, like Aaron Donald. I think he was third round or fourth round, wasn't he?
I think it was first round pick, but it was
Oh, he
late.
was first round. Okay.
I think.
Anyway, that's what I was going to say there. Then with what you were saying, Dustin, it's interesting how different for football, how different the game of college football and NFL football can really be. You can be a star, absolute stud in college, but it just doesn't translate to NFL because it's different. It really is different. And I think a lot of people don't really realize or understand how different it is until you're there. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Good discussion. We're talking like Wembanyama is for sure the first overall pick. I think, to be fair, there is a little bit of doubt, but he's probably 98% sure to be the first overall pick this coming year. So yeah. Okay, I think that will finish our time. I think next week we have a guest, right? And we're talking about college baseball. Is that correct, Dustin? Next week?
I haven't officially invited him, but we can plan on that.
Okay, yeah. Let us know if he agrees. By the way, the last little bit, I'll give an update to the scores that we haven't done in a while for NBA playoffs. Dustin, you're at 37. I'm at 29, and Cody's at 23. So that's where we are. Talk to you later.